for the Unit 6 test review. Just like the other test reviews, I have styled some problems that will be similar to those that you will see on the actual test. Of course, the actual test is multiple choice and these are free response, but you get the same style of problem. So let's work through these. If you see anything on these, on this review that you're unfamiliar with, make sure to look it over very well, because chances are there's a pretty good chance there's a problem on the test that's going to be like it. Now, before you take the test, make sure that you've done all of the sections, all the assignments, look through all the lessons, and then thoroughly go through this review. Here we go. A coach bought tickets for his 25 team members. The total cost of the tickets was $75. What was the cost per team member? Now that's like a unit cost. Per team member, it's $75 for 25 members. How many for one? Well, here, this one's nice because 25 and 75 are both divisible by 25. 25 goes into the top 3 times, 25 goes in the bottom 1. This is my unit amount here, so it is $3 per team member. All I would do is divide. I want to make sure that my denominators are 1. All right, in this next example, it says a bug is traveling at a rate of 20 centimeters per minute. About how many inches per minute does it travel? Well, what you have to do here is you have to figure out 20 centimeters in inches. So we have this conversion rate that 1 centimeter is 0.4 inches. I have centimeters on top, I have inches on the bottom. So 20 centimeters is how many inches? I'm going to cross multiply, I get x equals, now 0.4 times 20 is 8. You can do the arithmetic, but it's definitely 8. And this is my inches here. So this would be, the bug travels at 8 inches per minute. Not very fast moving. Then I have a couple of proportions to solve where one of the terms is missing. In this case, it's the third term. Over here, it's the second term. I'm going to use the same steps I did up here. I'm going to cross multiply. 3 times 55 is 165. 5 times x is 5x. I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And I get x is equal to, looks like 33. All right. On the next one, very similar. I'm going to multiply this way. 9 times 14 is 126. H times 7 is 7h. I'm going to divide both sides by 7. And h is equal to, looks like 18. Remember those two steps, cross, multiply, and divide. Now problem number 4 says, determine the type of variation shown in the table and identify the constant of variation. As x gets bigger, y is getting bigger, so this is direct variation. If x gets bigger and y gets smaller, then it's inverse variation. And my constant of variation is what it takes to multiply times my x to get my y. So what am I multiplying? 2 times what is going to give me 10? 3 times what is going to give me 15? 5 times what is going to give me 25? Well, divide by 2, and that what is indeed 5, and that is referred to as the constant of variation. Sometimes the constant of variation is a nice even number or a nice round number like 5. Sometimes you'll get a decimal. The fifth problem, excuse me. If you can buy 3 pounds of dog food for $8, how many pounds can you buy for $20? I'm going to set up a proportion. I'm going to have 3 pounds is the $8. How many pounds is the 20? Notice it's pounds to dollars, pounds to dollars. I'm going to cross multiply. I get 60 this way. I get 8x this way. Now if I divide both sides by 8, and I'm running out of space here, so 60 divided by 8 and 8x divided by 8 will give me x is equal to 7.5. So I'll be able to buy 7.5 pounds of this dog food for $20. Problem number 6, given triangle ABC is congruent. Remember this symbol, the equal sign with the little squiggle above it means it's congruent to triangle DEF. What is the measure of angle D? Well, with congruent triangles, corresponding angles are congruent. They have the same measure. So I have to see what angle corresponds to angle D. Well, look at the order. D is the first letter here. A is the first letter here. That means A and D are the two that correspond. So A is 38. There it is. A is 38. So even though it doesn't look like it, the measure of angle D is 38 degrees. Next example, I have rectangles that are similar. That means that they have congruent angles, which of course that makes sense since they're all 90-degree angles, and their sides are proportional. What is the ratio of the lengths of the corresponding sides? So all I have to do is take two sides that correspond. So I'll take the two longest sides here, the 24 and the 9, and we are to write the ratio of the lengths corresponding to MNPQ, that's the big one, STWV, that's the little one. So I'm going to go 24 to 9, all right, and divide top and bottom, I get 8 to 3, which I would have gotten if I'd taken the smaller sides right away. Next one up, a 20-foot tree casts an 8-foot shadow, an 8-foot long shadow at the same time of day, so that the shadow is proportional and such. How long of a shadow does a nearby 15-foot tree cast? Well, it's a shorter tree, so it should be less than 8 feet. Let's see. I'm going to go the height of the tree to the height of the other tree. I'm going to go 20, big to little. 20 is to 15. Now I'm going to go shadow to shadow here. The length of the shadow is 8. The length of the other shadow, we don't know. I'm going to call that x. So I'm going to, well, here I can divide top and bottom by 5, right? That would give me 4 over 3 is equal to 8 over x. I'm going to cross multiply. I get 4x equals 24. Didn't leave myself much space here. Divide both sides by 4, and x equals 6, and x was the length of the shadow. So it's a 6-foot long shadow. Okay. The next one up, I have two triangles that are similar. You can tell that it means similar because that's the symbol, it's similar to. Triangle JKL is similar to triangle PRS. What is the length of side JL? Now, what I want to do is JL is the first letter to the third letter, so PS corresponds to that, the first letter to the third letter, and PS is 6. Now notice here I have KL, that's the middle to the last, and RS, that's the middle to the last. So these two correspond and these two correspond. So I'm going to go big to little. I'm going to go 15 is to 10 as x is to 6. I'm going to cross multiply. I get 90. I get 10x. I'm going to divide both sides by 10. And I get x is equal to 9. So the length of JL, the measure of line segment JL, is equal to 9. No units are given. Number 9, a map has a scale of 1 inch corresponds to 10 miles. If the distance between two towns on a map is 8 inches, what's the actual distance between the two towns? Well, if 1 represents 10 inches on top, miles on the bottom, then 8 inches represents how many miles? I cross multiply, it's a little scale drawing here, and I get 80. Hopefully you can read that. X equals 80, so it would be 80 miles. Write the scale 1 foot to 15 yards without units. Well, that means that the measurements have to be the same. You can't have feet in the numerator, yards in the denominator. They either have to both be feet, or both be yards, or both be inches, or something. So since it's easier to convert yards to feet, since there are 3 feet to a yard, 15 yards is 45 feet. So I have 1 foot is to 45 feet, and that's my scale. A die is rolled. What are the odds in favor of rolling an odd number? Well, in favor of an odd number means all the favorable to the unfavorable. And since a die has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of odds, that would be the 1, 3, and 5. There are 3 odds. There are 3 that are not odds. So it would be 3 to 3, which is 1 to 1. Or if you want to, you could write it as 1 to 1. There are 120 people on a train. Of those, 30 are children. Write the ratio of children to adults as a decimal. Children, 30. Adults, 90. So now what I'm going to have here, 90 people, so 90 adults and 30 children make 120. I'm going to rewrite this as a decimal. That means I'm going to have to divide. But first I'm going to divide top and bottom by 30. This is the same as 1 to 3. This is a repeating decimal. If you divide 3 into 1, you'll get 0.33, and the 3's go on. So I'm just going to round to the 100th and leave it like that. given CDEF is congruent, that means exactly the same lengths and exactly the same angles, what's the measure of angle F? Angle F is right here. It's the fourth letter. It corresponds to angle K. So angle F, oh wait a minute, I'm sorry. What is the measure of angle F? I wrote down the wrong line. It was supposed to be a K here. I am so sorry. That's supposed to be a K. So what's the measure of angle K? Well, if angle F is 59, K corresponds to it, so the measure of angle K is 59 degrees. Yeah, otherwise it's a pretty easy problem when I give you the answer. And last but not least, a mixture contains 18 ounces of white paint, 25 ounces of blue paint. To achieve the same color, how many ounces of white should be mixed with 40 ounces of blue? Well, they should have the same correspondence of the mixture here. I have 18 that are white and 25 that's blue. This is white on top, blue on the bottom. So I have 40 ounces of blue. That's going to be the bottom is 40. So we want to know how much white. So this is another proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. Now 18 times 4 is 72. So 18 times 40 is 720. And here I'm going to multiply and I get 25x. Well, I don't think this one's going to come out evenly. I'm going to have maybe a decimal here. I'm going to divide both sides by 25. And if I had more space, I'd actually do the long division. Let's see if I can do this one. This is 28.8 if I'm not mistaken. 28.8, so that would be 28.8 ounces of white paint. Set up the proportion, cross multiply and divide. Most times they come out nicely. Once in a while you'll have to take it out as a decimal. All right, remember to look through these problems before you take your test and practice, practice, practice.